by the ED in terms of the relevant process, the renewal or non-renewal. I just want to make sure every member's got a copy. I just have confirmation because I don't want to proceed with any item where members haven't had perused it and are okay with the issues. Right, members, 7 minutes. Can we, any person on this issue? Honourable Ramatlakane.
No, thank you, Honourable Chair. I was battling to you. We start with the two letters. The letter. No, Chair. In my position here, like other members, I have a letter of the 5th September, and the other one is dated 13 November. These are the letters from the Executive Director to the Minister. It appears at the face of the letter, when one reads it, is that the ED was clearly aware that the contract was coming to an end. In fact, he, in some instances, he knew how many months were left. In the letter of September, I think he alluded to the fact that his contract expiry is left with 5 months before it expires. And what he wanted to know is what is going to be, whether the minister is going to extend the contract which is expiring. So all along, my reading of this letter, Chair, is that there is no confusion, nor was there any, some implied right for extension. I leave that letter. The one I see is quite important. It's a recent letter. This recent letter of the 13th of November, which make reference to the previous letter of September 6. It's dated 5 or 6, years 6. But for me, the key last 2, 3, and 4 paragraphs that is stated there, it's again referring to the fact that I know my contract is expiring, so whatever position is taken, I need to be to know so I can make my other arrangement. But the fatal one is the 4. The 4 says, in all of this, taking into account, it is thus recommended that the process of advertising the post and the selection of the suitable candidate commence at the earliest opportunity. That's quoting the letter. So, and then kindly revert to me at your earliest convenience. Well, this letter, I think, settled the discussion with respect to the contract, and it's settled in our mind. Now, maybe I don't know now.
I just want to read this letter of the 5th because we just talk about it. And it's not everybody maybe who's listening who have this letter, what it says. It was written on the 5th of September. Information for note, dear Honorable Minister, meaning Bheki Cele. The contract term, Executive Director. As you may be aware, I was appointed on the 1st of March 2014. I was appointed through an appointment letter. The appointment letter indicated that the appointment was for a 5-year term. As such, my term ends on the 28th February 2019. That would be in just over 5 months' time. I wish to understand whether the ministry intends to retain or extend my contract. Lastly, certainly in this regard, will provide sufficient time to make the necessary arrangements and preparation, whatever the decision or intention is. Kindly revert to me at your earliest convenient time. McBride, the Executive Director, Ipid, date 6, then September 2018. This one of the 13th November 2018, it read thus: information note, dear Honorable Minister, follow-up contract term, Executive Director. The above matter has reference. Information note was submitted to the Minister's Office on the 6th September 2018 in this regard. Copy attached as Annexure A. Subsequently, a meeting was concluded by the Office of the Minister.
Place of concluded, but you're welcome to continue. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. You can continue. You're welcome. You can continue.
Okay. The information note serves as a follow-up on the matter. My term ends on the 28th February 2019. That would be in just over 3 months' time. As stated in the previous information note, certainly in this regard, will provide sufficient time to make the necessary arrangements and preparations. Whatever the decision, retention, extension or not, the Ipid will need to continue to function optimally. Lastly, it is thus recommended that the process of advertising the post and the selection of a suitable candidate commences at the earliest opportunity. Kindly revert to me at your earliest convenience. Mr. McBride, Executive Director of Ipid, dated 13th November 2018. So, what the previous speakers have been presenting, I should think is very correct and very valid. So we just need to understand that there's no longer a need to be deliberating on this. We know our mandate, what to do and what not to do. So I close up by saying what I wanted is to let everybody to know the whole information from the 2 letters. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mabija, Honorable Marke.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think I'm the one that asked for these 2 letters yesterday. And I specifically said the omission of these 2 letters, it's a bit dangerous because it gives an impression that the minister woke up on the left side of his bed and decided to write a letter to McBride. So in some case it was lying by omission. And I'm not even very sure whether this was in the court papers, because surely it would have made a very big difference to the judge, even if I'm not a legal person. That's all I wanted to say, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, members. I think we have used all available time for these letters. It's been read into the record and members gave their opinions. And of course, when we later this afternoon or early evening come to our deliberations in terms of conclusions, of course, members can raise it again. Right, thank you very much. Members, I think we're still waiting for the AG notes. It will be with us shortly. Let's move then to the next issue. On the second page, that is the letter of the Public Service Commission that was made available to members. It's also in the pack, and it relates to a finding that was made by the Public Service Commission with regard to the transfer of duties of a Deputy Director in Ipid. Honourable Ramatlakane, 7 minutes. Thank you.
Honourable Chair, yesterday in the 15-minute session, I alluded in passing on this particular letter, which is it emanated from a staff member, the name Sauhadze, working for Ipid as a deputy director. In the vetting section is heading vetting of personnel. I did mention yesterday that there is an issue which in the minister's letter or reasons, he mentioned something, and he quoted as abuse of authority and abuse of power, alleging that the head of Ipid somehow abuses his power and authority. This is contained in this letter. The Public Service Commission conclusion on this letter, the findings of this letter, Chair. When you read the story about the letter, and you read it, what activated all of these, and the reaction to it. If I read the story properly, and I'm summarizing it, this lady wanted a transfer, wanted to go and work at another unit, and the response of the ED, in fact, to be precise, the issue here was applying to go and work in the police. The reaction of my Ipid here, the director, was by virtue of this request taking a view that she should be removed as a head of vetting in this unit of Ipid. And I must emphasize the question of vetting has been an issue that the committee has been talking about over years in Ipid, in fact emphasizing the question of vetting, how important the personnel vetting is. Then, of course, the reaction was that by virtue of raising that, it then means that this lady is too close to SAPS. Henceforth, she should be removed and be confined somewhere in the supply chain, not at the job what she's been appointed to do. And of course, this was then dealt with by the history, the letter you can read for the detail. But Wes, Chair, which is somebody who appropriate powers they don't have. Wes wants the transfer happens, but this lady, remember, she has been given she has been vetted before she could be that head of that vetting. Vetted by SSA, she holds a vetting security clearance of a particular level. This is removed from her by the ED. Voice becomes law. Transfer to there, I'm even taking away the powers. You're no longer being able to vet. You can't vet. You're just an ordinary supply chain person now in the department. That is the letter. The Public Service Commission findings and dealing with this letter is quite serious to my reading, because it says there's a violation of the policy. First, the policy of Ipid for what the ED has done was a violation of that very fine policy. And it says this, what has happened here, is abuse and harassment. And later they explain in the letter, and I think I was able to read the letter, they explain it, that the letter, the heavy complaint was substantiated. In fact, they say that this act is also gravitating in injuring Section 33(1) of the Constitution, of what the ED has in fact done as a head of the Ipid. So for me, the reading and looking at, and the recommendation here is that all of what has happened should be corrected. She should be reinstated back in the position of a vetting officer in the Ipid. I don't know whether that has happened. I mean, we're not asked to deal with that. But the point I want to make here, Chair, reading this letter, looking at the minister's allegation, which is now seems to be collaborated with not by individual, by an institution, Public Service Commission, on the action and the action of the head of Ipid in this case. This letter point to the fact that, you know, if anybody is a head of institution and act without regarding what the rules and procedure and policies are, is one of the serious things that happens in institutions, that it happens. So therefore, I want to conclude by saying, Chair, in my last minutes, this part of the Public Service Commission, in the papers of the ED glibly says, you're talking about the Public Service Commission, that thing was completed, they found me no guilty, the matter was sorted. Glibly. But when we ask for additional record, contrary is actually true. So again, we've been misled to believing that issue, if we were just to go at the face value of what is written, would have been just simply been misled to believing that all this allegation that has been... Time up? Okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Mula, then Honourable Molabatsi.
Thank you, Chairperson. In our files, we've got this letter, but this letter in our files, it doesn't have page 4, where there were recommendations for the PSC. I don't know if it's Ipid which misled us, or when they are doing the printing.
No, it's from the Minister's office. So I think maybe the Secretariat misfiled two copies. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Chairperson, that's what I wanted to know, because yesterday I read this letter and I didn't find the recommendation. But I'm happy today because you gave us the recommendation. What I'm afraid of, or I'm worried of, is that they said the Ipid should be advised to refrain from harassing Mrs. Sehoudse in this regard. I'm too sensible, Chairperson, about women. if you are harassing women in your department, the abuse of women? What kind of a person are you? And you appoint a person in this position, and this person was appointed as a director, deputy director vetting, and now she was transferred to all the departments, supply chains, where she's not going to add value. Why they were transferring her to those departments, which means they were frustrating her, because I'm so worried if the Ipid, all the Ipid members are vetted, Chairperson. Because in all these years or months, we were talking about subs and everything, but we didn't talk about Ipid. This thing gives me a question mark. This person was a what, Chairperson? A threat to them. That's what I'm worried about, abuse of women, Chairperson. He must refrain from abusing women. I'm a woman, Chairperson. You know the 16 days of activity, Chairperson. That's my problem, Chairperson. I thank you that we got the last page. Yeah, the abuse and harassing, Chairperson. It's not good. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Molabatsi, and then Honourable Marke, and Honourable Buthelezi, and Honourable Mbele, and yeah, thank you. Honourable Koulibarnat, and then Honourable Inam Sheikh, the last one. Thank you. You can continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mine is on the inappropriate manner that this deputy director was handled. She was stripped of her title. Her security clearance was withdrawn by the ED willy-nilly, which was unprocedural. This is a victimization of the highest order. And to me, the ED was applying her bullying tactics. Thanks, Chair.
Honourable Marke.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think we don't need to belabor this point. It is very clear in the findings. Unless if we are peeling the findings, they are written down. That the executive director went against the constitution of this country. I don't think if there's anything bigger than that one. So I don't see why should we start debating this thing. It's a finding of the Public Service Commission, which I think is a Chapter 9 institution, which is independent. The finding says he went against the constitution of the country, the supreme law. I think that says it all. We are not, unless if we are disputing the findings, then you need to appeal somewhere else. We're having findings here, is finished with us. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Marke. Then Honourable Buthelezi.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. I think I will agree with the previous speaker, and to say, for me, I think this letter is one thing that counts against him from many things that we've been discussing. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Buthelezi, Honourable Mbele, and then Honourable Koulibarnat, and then Honourable Imam Sheikh. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. The useful issue about this this document is that it's the first time we're dealing with a finding, not allegations, not whispers, not, you know, we're dealing with a finding by an investigative body, and thus can be treated in a, I guess, in a more clear manner than much of what has been has come up yesterday. And so we need to look at what kind of finding is it. It's a finding of labor malpractice. And the question that flows from that is whether a finding of labor malpractice is of a nature or egregiousness that warrants what kind of proportionate reaction or sanction. I note that the recommendations of the PSC is that the transfer should be reversed, that the withdrawal of the security certificate is invalidated, and that Ipid is advised to refrain from harassment. I wasn't quite clear as to the stated grounds for the finding of harassment, but I do see a whole section here, and I suppose, speaks to an effect of harm through various actions, which is quite broad, but that's as it is. What's not clear for me, and just raises a question, is that the reasons advanced by the Ipid, which I assume would have been done in the course of the investigation, are not stated. There's only the finding by the Public Service Commission that the reasons advanced by the Ipid are found to be baseless and without merits. So we have to take that finding at the word of the commission without being able to make an apple for apples comparison. So it's labor malpractice. The commission's findings and recommendations do not seem to speak to an issue of competence or incompetence, fitness for purpose or not, and those kind of high-level issues that I believe this process is about in terms of the renewal determination. So yeah, the point is taken, adverse finding. As to whether or not one could argue in court that labor malpractice is grounds for your fitness for a position is now conclusively found to be not there. Well, in that case, I think there's a whole bunch of people in the public sector and otherwise who would have to face a similar fate. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Bailey, Honorable Kolobana.
Yeah.
Can I clarify something, Honorable Chairperson?
Yes, you're welcome. Honorable
Honorable Mbele talked for a very long time, but I didn't hear what he was saying.
I'll ask the technical division to get the mic.
What was his point?
No, ma'am.
I mean, he read through this and he went over this, he said this. What is he actually telling us?
We're not going to make a value judgment. Members got 7 minutes and, yeah. Honorable Kolobana.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The letter is about a person the ED unilaterally transferred and he removed her security clearance. Now, as determined at the end, he overreached. His action was found to be incorrect and it was reversed. Now, this was 3 years ago, and I have not seen the letter from the ED explaining his actions, the reasons for his actions, and we understand the action and the way he went about it was against labour law, but why did he do it? So the woman was returned to her position. There's certainly no reference to the Constitution, but his decision was reversed. Now, we surely should have a letter from him filling in why did he take this action or these actions as unprocedural as they were. The PSC does not recommend that any action be taken against Mr. McBride at all. There's no suggestion that Mr. McBride should be fired or charged because of this action. As much has been elaborated here about the possibility of what he did, we really have no idea why he did it. Perhaps had the matter been dealt with in another fashion, following different procedures, her actions may have been considered to be so egregious as to see her face various charges. We don't know. So the procedure was not followed correctly. It was put back on track, but without an explanation from him. We're taking a very one-sided view of the action. And I repeat, it was not considered to be so serious that the Commission proposed any charges against him at all. It was simply a procedural matter that was wrong, and as I say, it might well have had a different outcome had it been approached in a different, along a different line. So what I think we need is some sort of explanation as to why he did what he did, and this committee may well agree that what this person did was so egregious that it should have perhaps gone further along correct labour legislation lines. Thank you.
Remember, yesterday we've instructed the Secretariat to provide this letter to Mr. McBride, and he must give us feedback today. So, yeah, so we ask for that, yeah. Right. First, Honourable Markey, did you raise a point there? I just want to...
Chairperson, I should think maybe a request on your side, or maybe give direction. The last two speakers, I don't know, are they saying that they are against the findings? Or are they saying we must start and get a story from McBride, and we are not the Commission? Are they doubting what the Commission did? Or what are they actually telling us? I mean, I'm asking that for the second time.
I don't
because if it's a finding, I would presume that maybe this finding is taken to somebody else to take a decision. Maybe it's sent to the minister, I'm not sure, or maybe it's sent to the NPA. And you can't tell me harassment of women is a minor thing. I think it's summary dismissal if you are found guilty on that one, even if I'm not a legal person. We can't allow somebody to sit here and tell us that in the public service, harassing women is a minor thing. I mean, if they don't have anything to say in relation to this, maybe it hit them under belt, they never expected it. Why don't they simply keep quiet?
Yeah,
thank you.
Members, I see a lot of hands. Let's just get back on track. Remember, we give 7 minutes to members. We might disagree with the views, but remember, later today, we're going to go to findings. So if there is agreement, for instance, on this topic that the committee agrees or not agree with the public service, that will be the process. So I don't want to, otherwise we're going to be stuck into technical points the whole time. Honourable Ramatlakane, do you still want to speak on this? Yes. Okay, yeah.
I just want to correct this hugely incorrect facts presented by Honourable Kolbanat. She says this is 3 years ago. This matter is January 2018, February 2018, when this matter started. Actually, the application happens on the 14th of December 2017. The memorandum, when the lady wrote a memorandum of request, presented in February. It's 1 year when this matter happened. So to say it's 3 years, I wanted just to correct that in terms of this, it's actually not 3 years. 3 years is incorrect.
Thank you for that. Is there technical points on Mamula and then Honourable Imam Sheikh and then Honourable Konabonat? Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. I become worried and disappointed. A woman protect men for abusing or harassing other women. I became worried, Chairperson, because the things that we are talking about is written here. It's not from us. It's the recommendation from the PSC. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honourable Imam Sheikh.
Thank you, Chair. You know, the concern that I have, Chair, is that we are forgetting about the seriousness of the actions of the Executive Director, Robert McBride, in this instance. Now, surely as the head, he knows rules, he knows laws, he knows the labour law, he knows what you can do and what you can't do. No one has ever contested the Public Service Commission findings. Okay? What is clear is this, that he has violated not only the rights of the individual concerned here, of the labour laws. In fact, what it clearly shows, that the ED in this case is a law unto himself. If he decides black is white, then black is white. He did not consult her. In fact, he's been walking all over. That's clearly what it shows. And it comes back to why so many people have challenges with the ED of the way he conducts his affairs. Now, for me, it's contradictory when you decide unilaterally that you don't want somebody, but when somebody else, like the minister, decides, I don't want to extend your contract, then it's a problem if anybody else wants it. But if you decide, I don't want somebody, you just remove them. Let us be consistent in what we do. I don't even understand why we're defending. This thing is quite clear. He went beyond his powers. If not, and let us be honest about one thing, Chair. In order for this Public Service Commission to come to these findings, they would have gone through an entire process, including getting representation from the ED as to why did you do A, B, and C. And that's why they came to these findings. I'm actually shocked that we even want to, in a very devious manner, if that's the term I should use, are trying to question the findings that was never contested. So, for me, Chair, it clearly says one thing, that as the head, and look at the reasons in terms of what we gave here. Ipid is at war with crime intelligence. So right now he believes he's at war with the minister. Right now he believes he's at war with Paslane and everybody else, even though he's proven nothing against him. So everything boils down to ED being the one that is right, and there are so many different people that have made so many statements against him. All of them tend to be wrong, because he is above everybody else. That is his understanding of it, in my view. Now, if a person, you lead by example, you are a head of a department. If you undermine your fellow employees to the extent that you have, let us be honest, your institution will be ungovernable. It will be ungovernable. And that is why we're having so many problems there. So let us respect these findings, Chair. It is clear that he's a law unto himself. He respects nobody but himself. He wants you to accept what he does, which this commission has said is wrong. It clearly indicates he is not fit and proper to hold that office. I'll stop there, Chair.
Honourable Mabija, you also want to give your 7 minutes, eh? 7 minutes, and then Honourable Kolomana just on the technical issue, and then we're going to have a short tea break. Honourable Mabija, 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to humbly request the two honourable members seated in front of me to stop fumbling, trying to divert the true facts of the issue of the item that we are dealing with, because they are just playing with our mind, testing our reasoning powers, and that is taxing We do not like it. May you please, please, please stop fumbling on something you know that it is not correct for you to do, but the inner thing, the inner ego is forcing you to just keep on fumbling. Please.
Honorable Cole Bonnet, you're the last, and let's try and douse the flames that we can have tea now in the next minute. Thanks.
Thanks very much. At no stage did I ever question the findings of this report or question anything said by the Public Service Commission in the report. What I said was, could we please hear why this was done? And in that letter, it would explain why it was done, or we would say, hear from him, I made a terrible mistake, but we don't have that side. So a lot of accusations have been made against what I had to say, that I don't understand, that I don't know, maybe can't play football. I don't know what the fumbling thing was. But all I wanted was an explanation for why this was done. As I say, there were no recommendations that the man should lose his job over a procedural error. So maybe it was a serious matter, maybe not, we need to know.
Members, I want to go to tea. Can we go to tea?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's go to tea for 7 minutes. We're coming back with the next topic. Thank you. Thank you, members.
Who the hell is Dr. Tutu Faleni? Faleni.
He's 35. He's 35. Let's go to his 35.
What's S35? What?
What?
Oh, I'm never going in that room again, ever, ever.
with the topics. Again, the 7-minute rule applies. The next topic is the public protector investigation. The Minister refers to that in his papers, and also Mr. McBride in various matters with regard to the complaints that was lodged with the public protector. So members are welcome to Honourable Make.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a point of clarification before we get to that one. On the security clearance, did we deal with that, and what was the decision? I heard you saying that it expired.
We decided yesterday that the committee will write to the Director General of State Security to give us a report on what is the status of it. So we haven't received, I think, yet the response. So as soon as we get that, we will communicate that to the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we now, colleagues, we with the issue of the public protector investigation that's referred to in both the papers of the Minister as well as that of Mr. McBride. The floor is open. Thank you. Honourable Cole Barnard, and then Honourable Ramatlakane. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, 2 points. The first is that I have not seen anywhere that the public protector is claiming that she's investigating, but a complaint has been lodged with her. From what I've seen by the comparisons drawn, they are the self-same complaints that were discredited by the investigation by the Public Service Commission. So the public protector is, according to the Public Protector Act, obliged to conduct a preliminary investigation of every complaint, any complaint she receives, unless, for 3 reasons, unless it's premature, it concerns a court decision, or it's submitted more than 2 years after the occurrence of the incident. So it's a preliminary investigation, and that's something that she actually has to do. Now, one of the complaints is anonymous. I'm actually not sure if any entity is allowed or expected to investigate an anonymous complaint, but the other one is indeed, again, the Nkabinda complaint, which has already been discredited by the Public Service Commission. So once a complaint has been investigated, it just seems that the outcome by the investigation by the Public Service Commission was an outcome that Mr. Nkabinda didn't like. And so he's tried in numerous other ways to reintroduce the same complaints that have been discredited, and has now gone a step further by taking the self-same complaints and going to the public protector. Anyone else would have considered this to be a form of harassment, but that indeed does seem to be what it is. And even though I raised the issue at the very start of proceedings yesterday, and I said in that the Public Service Commission has investigated these allegations, in that they were all considered to be unfounded and false, in that Mr. Nkabinda actually withdrew them, and that date is detailed in the papers, should they not be removed. And there was some consideration of that. But then I noted yesterday that those self-same unfounded, discredited charges were quoted over and over and over, as though somehow Mr. McBride had been found guilty of doing any of those things, stealing money, etc., all of which were unfounded and found to be false. So the public protector is simply doing what her job is and conducting a preliminary investigation, as she would do with any case lodged with her. So one can't sit back and say, oh, the public protector is investigating him. That is simply untrue.
Thank you. Honourable Ramatlakane, and then Honourable Make. Thank you.
No, Chair, Honourable Chair, my point on this, the first one is just to clarify that I don't remember that we have already found McBride guilty of anything. We're not running a DC here. This is not a DC that we're running. We're listening and we're engaging with what has been presented to us by both the minister and McBride on the issue of a contract. The issue that keeps us here together is a contract which expires in 2 days or 3 days from now. So there is no judgment about whether he's wrong. We are dealing with this issue, and that decision, if it's going to be taken, it will be taken later. So far, I don't remember us saying that. So appropriating things to others it's not good. It's not good. Yesterday, when the issue about Mr. Ngabinde was mentioned, and there was a call that, therefore, that as part of what the minister is complaining about should be struck off the record. I then said, but in the document, the minister is making reference to September, and in the record, in the pile of information, there is a letter from Mr. Ngabinde to the chairperson asking specifically, how far are you with my complaint? On that basis, we agreed that a letter should be sent to him. He should clarify where he stands. What is it? If he has withdrawn the charges, why would he write to you in October? That's really what we said should happen, so that we are clear. We're not saying he's no longer an issue when he is in fact an issue. So I think I just want to clarify that we speak for ourselves. And I will speak on my views without any concern about what other people take it for. But coming to the public protector, in the paper, Mr. McBride has a long chapter explaining the complaint away. My reading of the explanation, he was having a lot of work in trying to take away the complaint, make the complaint doesn't exist. Is just no here, no there. It's just a normal run-of-the-mill. When the complaint allegation is made, does not mean there's an investigation. He was explaining it away. What are the facts? The fact that there is a complaint lodged, and that complaint, reading of this paper, it is done by the minister. So it's a complaint. It's not something from the street. It's not a call center. It's a complaint on the table. What does the complaint say? So what are the allegations? Allegations are serious. Some of the allegations are already corroborated. For the record, the matter that we were discussing earlier on around the Public Service Commission, dealing precisely with the issue about violation of the Ipid policy. Not anybody else, but Ipid policy. Copy of the policy, the issue about the leave. Remember, we spoke about it yesterday. The question about selling what is left of your leave for money, converting it to money. We already spoken about that without necessarily having it approved by someone else. You can't approve your own thing. You can't pay yourself and call it legal. So all of these things is what we discussed about yesterday. They are contained in this letter. So they are serious. I don't agree with respect to Mr. McBride to say all of these things are really frivolous. Don't have to worry about it. Push ahead with what we're pushing ahead. Actually, some of the things here, for me, they are hair-raising issue. I mean, there is an issue here on 337 on the letter of public protector. 337 is approximately 500,000 that is paid. That is an allegation about irregularly paid in terms of legal service. This is not just an allegation. There's an issue about this. In fact, there was an issue here about it last year, even though there was a withdrawal of the report, but there's an issue about it. So, and we can't say it's not important, therefore it doesn't play a role, doesn't influence. If there's a misconduct becomes almost like a barrier if it's not complete. If there's a misconduct which is not completed, it becomes a barrier because it's an issue that must be first cleared before you move into the next page. The people that are alleged here, which on 334, some of them we know them personally. These people that were at that place, they left. They left that place. It is alleged here that they left there because they were asked to implicate or to write a false statement. Some of them are advocates here, which we know personally. They refused to do it. So it's allegation. It must be tested. They must be called. They must explain. So it's an issue, Chair. Now
30 seconds, thing.
30 seconds. The purchase of automatic, semi-automatic firearms. The other one, I think, is an issue about the surveillance device. The whole thing about purchasing of these issues and surveillance device, one worries what control, for what purpose, and so on. So I think somebody must explain those things. I think it's a serious issue for me, Chair, so I would not say we should take it off the table because there is a almost like a long lecture about how the public protector does the investigation. Thank you.
Honourable Marke and then Honourable Mula.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Honourable Mulabatsi.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think I would still say that where there's still investigations going on, we can throw that out of the window because there hasn't been any decision taken about the investigations. But as it was, in my understanding, the public protector dismisses frivolous complaints. But the fact that she is investigating this one, it means, I'm not a legal person, but they usually talk about prima facie or something of that nature. It means that already exists, the fact that she is investigating. But I still maintain that we can put aside the investigations, not for this committee for now, but still to be investigated in another forum. Especially because maybe they've been referred to us, but not for this purpose. So my view is that where the investigations are not completed as yet, that we can put aside for now. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honourable Marke, Honourable Mula, then Honourable Mulabatsi, then Honourable Mbele.
Thank you, Chairperson. On this letter of in front of me, I've got the letter from Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, which was written on the 17th of October 2018. It was written to the Honourable Minister Bheki Cele. When this thing appeared on the media that the public protector is investigating Mr. McBride, he went to the media and said, this is wrong. It was the public protector is not investigating him. I don't know what he said about the public protector, but the only letter that we are having is from the public protector. We don't have the other one that the public protector is not investigating him. And when you look here, Chairperson, there are serious allegations that Mr. McBride paid himself an HOD allowance for the period he was on suspension without receiving the approval from the minister. And he paid himself an amount of 100,000 for unused leave credits for the year 2015-2016 without receiving the approval from the minister. Where is Mr. McBride reporting to? Because I can't approve my leave. If I want to go to leave, I may ask the whip of the party or the person to approve for me, not myself. Which means McBride was doing everything. He was his own boss. He was everything in that department. He was not reporting to anybody. The second one, on page 4, it says the staff who refused to falsely implicated the former executive director, Mr. Khomtso Phatlana of maladministration, were forced to leave. If you were not dancing to his guitar, he sent you away. He was on his own, Chairperson. How can we say today we are dealing about the renewal of the contract, but there are misconducts and allegations and everything that are being done by the public protector, Chairperson. We must look at all these things because now it's not us who are saying this. We've got the reports in front of us. And we must use our own minds, Chairperson. We must be sober-minded here when we are dealing with these things. We must be sober-minded, Chairperson. Because allegation is an allegation. Tomorrow they will say you are cleared or not. But if you are cleared, Chairperson, we must have a letter that says, I'm cleared from this. Like the one of the 500,000. We asked for it for 4 years. And we received on our last year that he was cleared for paying the lawyers Adams and Adams. For 4 years, he was reviewing that thing. He was reviewing for 4 years. And we don't know what happened, Chairperson. But we've got the letter that says it was cleared. Thank you, Chairperson, but you must be sober-minded here. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mula, Honourable Molabatsi, and then Honourable Mbele. And any other members, can they, Honourable Bulezi? You covered. You're fine. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Still on these allegations of irregular payments, he approved the salary progression of Mr. Soko, Mr. Dlamini, Mr. Mauka, Mrs. Nechianda, Ms. Mpaho, Ms. Ntangan, irregularly. And then the other one that is serious to me is he introduced a new logo for Ipid without the necessary approvals and registrations. And if you can remember, I asked him about the new logo the other day. And as usual, he just said what he wanted to say, just in passing. It was, to him, it was like a small thing. But here we are, we have it in the Public Protector's report. Thanks, Chair.
Mbele?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to get too embroiled in the nitty-gritty of the document that is the current item on the agenda, because those are all allegations, and I don't think this committee is the competent body to make a qualitative evaluation of those. What I do want to do is to surface and surface what's happened a couple of times, and it's this schizophrenia that keeps happening at different parts of our deliberations. On the one hand, we hear, or it's expressed that allegations are allegations. We must be sober-minded, and do this properly. But when allegations are read from this public protector documents, which is a listing of the allegations, they are read as facts, as supposed fact or a supposed reality. And again, we can't make a judgment yet. There are serious allegations, and they are going through the process. But every now and then they are expressed with a tone that suggests these are the facts, and therefore they now can be used to infer something about the conduct or character of the ED as it then has bearing on this process. And a salient point to make about this.
Mbele, sorry, there's a point of order from Honourable Molabatsi. Thank you.
Chair. You see, Honourable Mbele, we actually said allegations, meaning you are saying what you are saying.
Quite right.
But you want to say it in another way. Yeah.
No, Chair, I think we're on the same page there. But I want to make the point again that they're allegations. A salient point to raise about the public protector investigation is that, at least as per the ED submission, he says that he has not yet been formally advised of these allegations or given the opportunity to respond, because he first heard of them in the minister's submission, and that there is currently the preliminary investigation by the public protector in order to determine whether they will then launch into a full and comprehensive one to make findings. So we're dealing with the first stage of an embryonic exploratory process of allegations. And again, I'm going to say that the weighting that we give to any submission has to be taken in its proper framing. If I was right now to submit a dossier of allegations against any other member to, say, the Ethics Committee or wherever, that in and of itself means nothing except perhaps for a reputational damage until the Ethics Committee sits, deliberates, processes, and arrives at a conclusion. That's where we are in relation to this. And so I just want to caution against being shocked at the allegations, because, Chairperson, quite rightly, if the allegations are found to be true, I will be at the front of the queue for this committee to do its job and initiate those removal proceedings. But until we get there, the allegations.
Thank you very much, Honourable Buthelezi. Welcome. 7 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask from the Chair whether we did receive a letter confirming the fact that Kabinde withdrew his allegations.
As I indicated at the beginning of our proceedings today, the letters went to the various people yesterday, and we will ask the Secretary during the day to continuously contact the various role players we wrote to yesterday to get the confirmation on it. So we're still awaiting that. That's why we also said that 6 o'clock tonight is a possibility for another meeting, yes.
Okay. So then if that's the case, Chair, I don't know, up to what extent can we engage on this matter? Because I think that letter on its own will assist this committee a great deal. So we'll end up lamenting, and at the end of the day, we're not supposed, if it's true that these allegations were withdrawn, then why do we discuss them? Because they fall out of our table. Unless they were not, then that's something that we should consider.
No, I think that point was made yesterday. Other members, thank you very much. Do you want to speak on the merits of, on this topic or not? Are you covered?
No, I won't because
Yeah,
of what I've
okay.
just said now.
Yeah, okay. Any other member? Honorable Mabija and then Honorable Imam Sheikh, thank you.
On heaven's sake, we do understand that we have allegations, and those allegations are negative. They are not positive. How and on earth can we not do what we are expected to do? How on earth must we fail to do what is expected of this committee to do? Checking on all these allegations, to crown it all. Some allegations are putting a very dark cloud over the head of the incumbent from the Public Protector's Office. So I don't see the reason why we should be straining our brains. It's so clear and explicit. There's nothing that stops us to take a decision because these are just allegations. We are expected to do what we need to do, what we know is the honorable thing to do on or before the 28th. So I see no reason why we should be dragging this item. It's obvious. Thank you.
We're going to Honorable Imam Sheikh and then Honorable Buthelezi on the same topic.
Thank you, Chair. Sometimes I wonder whether I'm on the same planet, Chair, because sometimes I hear that when there are allegations, we must suspend people, remove them, fire them, do everything. Sometimes when there's serious allegations, I hear you say, no, these are only allegations. I just wonder where we are really. But anyway, Chair, let me say in the beginning, the allegations by Kabinda and those before the public protector are not entirely the same. The ones on Kabinda relates more to unethical conduct, particularly if you look at the issue of Paul O'Sullivan and the involvement of the ED in this matter. So the Kabinda issue and the public protector are not entirely the same. The public protector one is more extensive and there's a whole host of allegations that are there. And let us be honest. Now, there are serious allegations, and there's just not 1, 2, or 3. 100,000 unused leave credit, paid himself HOD allowance, granted him a salary progression, paid several employees leave pay, sidelined the chief financial officer, oversaw a number of irregular staff appointments, forced IPD staff to refuse to falsely implicate former director Khomotso Pashlane. While you talk about Pashlane's matter, let us not forget all the allegations against Pashlane, the matters were withdrawn. You understand? How are we talking about a credible person here, Chair? Are we talking with the evidence thus far in front of us? You know, I get the impression sometimes that the ED does not need senior counsel. He has silk in this house sometimes, I feel. Yeah. You know. But what I am saying is, Chair, there are so many allegations, and this is only one aspect to deal with the issue of the renewal. We've dealt with so many different reasons. I'm still yet to be convinced why I must actually support a renewal of this contract. You know, Chair, I've seen the highest level of deceit. Even with those letters, the world, South Africans all know the minister did something wrong. That was not even put into the documents, into the court file, only came in much later. But conveniently, now you're telling me again that I must then, with what I have in front of me, the evidence that there's deceit, there's an attempt to want to misdirect us, but not even providing those letters and things, that I must forget all these allegations that are before the public protector. Now we all know there's no smoke without fire, and I'm not saying that he is guilty of these things. But I'm saying, under the present circumstances, with so many allegations against him, and with all the other aspects that we have gone through so far, including the letters, the finding another job, removing people forcefully, being a law unto himself, the contract, I'm still hearing here why he must still remain in that job. And I'm not convinced. But let me make one thing very clear, Chair, that in terms of the public protector, and I think there was some argument about one person that was unanimous, or what's the term, anonymous. I don't know, Chair, even if yourself, Chair, given the circumstances of how somebody was forcefully removed without following any processes, plus you are buying guns without due authority, you know, whether you wouldn't feel intimidated to give your name when you want to give evidence against somebody. It's normal human behavior. But it doesn't mean if that some anonymous person has given some allegations, made some allegation, it should not be tested. Now, for a public protector to accept this file and to say they are investigating, surely there must be something in there that gave them the understanding that there is perhaps a prima facie evidence that we should proceed with investigations. Let us not undermine these authorities, because if the public protector, who is very capable, at any stage had the slightest inclination that, nah, this is just a waste, let's not waste taxpayers' money, there's nothing to this, would have immediately not even taken on the matter. But is taken on the matter and is conducting investigation because that office believes, not conclusive, but believes there is a strong possibility we might have conviction. And that's what it is about. So let us not undermine those processes. It is allegation that this, but they are serious. The question we need to ask ourselves is, while there are so many serious allegations amongst many other items, is it in the interest of Ipid to renew a contract of the ED given the present circumstances? And my submission in that is based on what the public protector is, clearly there isn't. I'll stop there, Chair.
Thank you. It's Honourable Buthelezi. Honourable Ramlikani, you must also speak still on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. I will be very happy when we come to a point where we decide on the matter, because that is where I think we'll be able to meet each other as the committee members. It's very good to have self-confidence, but it's another thing to insist on your own views. First, I want to say no one has said here, let us renew the contract. No one has said that. We are engaging so that when we get to that point, we have deliberated the matter in a manner that satisfies all of us. I will suspect that some members seem to be conflicted, if I may say so. They seem to have conflict in this matter of interest. And I will say they were supposed to actually declare their interest, because you found that when you seem to speak or raise a point that does not suggest that McBride should not be renewed, you are perceived as if you are saying his contract must be renewed regardless, which is not the case here. And I will appeal that members use their minds to influence their hearts, because we are dealing with issues here. You see, I like what Honourable Imam Sheikh has said here, to say there are instances where a person is alleged to have done something and he is suspended. And there are also cases where a person is alleged to have done something and the person is not suspended. I think the suspension of a person actually is determined by the fact that how much his presence in that environment will interfere with the investigation. And from where we sit as South Africans, no one is guilty until he's proven guilty. These can be damning allegations. That does not mean anything much. They remain as such up until he's proven. So I would like to say, if we seem to take a line that may be perceived as favorable to McBride, that's our view, and we should do that. But we'll come to a point where we discuss. And there are some issues that members must raise in their conclusive remarks when we're about to decide whether or not to say, as far as I'm concerned, based on these issues, then they will articulate those issues. But we have a right to actually be open to discuss whatever that we want to in a manner that we feel is proper. And that's all I can say, Honorable Chairperson. But the issue of an allegation on this part of the minister, and then McBride has actually given his side of the story, that if there is a gap there, like on the matter that I raised specifically to say, the minister is saying these are the allegations, McBride says these were withdrawn. Where do we stand as a committee? We need something that will bridge that gap, and that is like the evidence to the effect that they were withdrawn. If not, then they strengthen the case to say he lied to the committee post. That's what he said here, but we can't reach those conclusions if there are missing links in between.
I think there's general agreement, Honourable Leslie, that, I mean, we must look at all the material that's before us. That's why we've got these topics. We can't leave things out that's in the papers. That's why we decided let's list all those relevant issues. Of course, there will be different views, different interpretations, and members will put maybe issues that as they are, but when we come to the deliberations in terms of our conclusions, of course, then members will deal with it differently. But I mean, we can't impose a certain style on members. They're free to put whatever they want to put. Yes, Honourable Ramatlakane.
No, thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Cele, let's apologize if we came out quite as if we are stifling that kind of mind. I think the discussion here, the intention is not, we are grappling with the complex issues. We have different minds on the matter. Let's discuss it openly. So if we have somehow came out in that way, I really want to apologize that was not intention. Second point, Chair, I would like also with respect to all other colleagues, we all agree that there are allegations that are before the public protector for investigation. They will then unfold. So it's there, we agree. But I just want to say for the record, Chair, and if need be, we can do that. Yesterday, when we discussed this matter, I had quoted letters. I used the letter from Public Service DEPSA that explain how do you arrive at a progression payment. I use that letter for the record that it seems to me that in the case of Ipid, that some step has been missed, that those steps suggested did not happen. The second information which is in the file, I use the letter signed by the Minister of Public Service and Administration, Minister Roro, and I said it was signed on the 5th of 6th, 2018, which said in the things that did not, the failure of not signing the performance agreement and. We're giving a waiver for this particular year for this to be undertaken, a waiver for this particular year to be taken, and this year to be taken, covering the period of 5 years. I did say, and it appears so, in the letter from public service, as well as the schedule that suggests the progression payment has been effected, suggest that if in the event that these things has happened in the Ipid without having followed the suggestion or the strong directive from the Minister of Public Service to the Minister of Police, take it. It's given that it was to minister, and in this case I don't know whether Minister McBride got it, but that was directive that suggested that you can only determine this payment once you have done the assessment, and that assessment is signed. For the record again, I did say what appears on the document that I have received. Members did not contradict this. It appears that they are not signed. They were not signed. They were submitted, but they were not signed. Others is written retrospective. So they are not signed, have not been evaluation. There has not been a meeting that evaluate the performance that is claimed. I get 100, I mark myself as 100, and then that must be moderated in the discussion between the executing authority and the one who claims to have. And that discussion we're going to get to later, because yesterday there was this issue about 100%, that there was 100% that the Ipid achieved, which we will get to at some point. So all I'm saying at this stage, Chair, and now why I'm raising all of this? I'm raising all of this to make you aware that some of the issue raised in the long letter or in the letter from the public protector contain some of the very issues that we have already raised, that including of self-payment. They are now going to be investigated again once the record has been shown on the 2nd. Basically, they are going to be taken further than that. But the record that we have shows clearly that there's a problem, that these things did not happen. So I just don't want us to lose that, because I think isn't a very important point for me, because it goes at the heart of what we are asked to do, applying our mind to the performance, agreeing or not agreeing to renewal, which is a point that is going to follow. So I think if these issues are irritating, I'm sorry, I must apologize if they are irritating, but these are the facts, which all of us have the same fact. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Mthani. Honourable Kolobanat, yes, you're welcome.
Sentences here. I just wanted to draw the committee's attention to page 12 of the McBride letter, and certainly this could be corroborated in the court papers, where the magistrate basically says Mr. Nkabinda lied under oath and said he was an unreliable witness. This is the Mr. Nkabinda who, for reasons unknown, has come up with the allegations that the Public Service Commission says are totally unsubstantiated and which have now been reworked and sent to the Public Protector. So please consider that what the magistrate said, because that is determined by a court of law.
Yeah, maybe just on that point, I think Honourable Buthelezi referred to it. We just got SMS confirmation from Mr. Nkabinda that there is a letter on its way to the committee. So we'll await the letter. As soon as it arrives, we'll deal with it. Right. Members, we dealt now with this topic. Right, can we move on? Right, I just want to get an indication, because it's been now quite some time, the copies of the AG notes, is that now available?
What is wrong with them?
What?
Why aren't they giving us what we want?
Can we really, again, call on the Secretariat to make sure that we get those copies? Because we want to deal with that item. It's a quite important item, the AG reports and the AG notes. So I don't know. No, we received the notes this morning after a long tussle with them. They've released it.
So we've got some.
Yeah, no, we might just need copies, for discussion. So let's then move on to the issue of fit and proper person. Also issue raised by the Minister and also issue raised by Mr. McBride in his papers. Right. Honourable Marke.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think why don't we deal with some other issues, because this is the final deliberation.
No, let's
That's
park that.
when we are going to determine whether.
Yeah, no, let's then park fit and proper person for later today or tomorrow. Let's then deal with the issue of independence of Ipid. That's been an issue that's been, I think, with us since we started that process. There's been various input on that issue. On the one hand, you know, different views on it, and let's give members an opportunity to ventilate and put their views across the issue of independence of Ipid. 7 minutes. Thank you, members. Honourable Marke and then Honourable Cele Barnard.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would need to be given direction here. What is this item actually saying? Is it what are we going to talk about? Because surely it is in the Ipid Act. It is already in the decision of the Constitutional Court. So I get a bit confused to what are we actually looking at when we deal with this item. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, I don't want to empt the discussion, but remember, in all the papers, that issue has been made forward. It's also in the relevant court cases, but it's part of the question is that the independence of Ipid would be in danger if the contract is not renewed. That point is kind of made in the papers of the ED. He's arguing also under political considerations that the contract must be extended due to the situation. So the issue of independence broadly is coming up, so we must put that to the members. Members must discuss it. We've got the duty to do it. But I mean, of course, it's your own interpretation. It is in the various documents. Honourable Buthelezi and then Honourable Cele Barnard and Honourable Ramatlakane 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There is nothing much that I want to comment on this matter except to say it is true that McBride actually submitted that if the hate is changed now, so that might cause some kind of commotion. And he made a specific reference to say he thinks that the minister may influence the process to appoint someone